on the rad left, we're not going to visit family. And it is recommended that you don't. This county, especially in Franklin County, if you live here, which I'm assuming most of our listeners do, it says that only to leave the house for supplies and, if you're an essential worker, basically. And, they're recommending that you don't go to a family gathering for Thanksgiving and possibly Christmas. And as much as that sucks for some people, honestly, I don't care about holidays. I don't really like holidays all that much. But the main strain on this is the stuff that I would do around my family events to kind of cope with that, which is go hang out with friends and unload a lot of the baggage that happens with family. And this year is going to be especially bad for those of you who do go and visit family, and the people who don't visit family but are doing like Zoom calls or whatever. You're still going to have to deal with family. And I thought this was a good topic. I talked with both one of my grandmas and one of my uncles last night, and it kind of made me start thinking, because I don't talk to a lot of conservatives. I've kind of cut them all out of my life as much as possible, because I don't need that kind of death cult mentality and that kind of pressure on me. But it was nice, kind of like a refresher, talking with people who have very different views from me and very, very basic views, not well researched whatsoever. So the conversation with my uncle started off where we were talking about COVID, and he was talking about, he said to me, he's like, one of the things that I like to do is go out to eat. And I was like, yeah, sure, okay, go out to eat, yeah, everybody likes to do that. And he's like, and now I can't even do that because Colorado has shut down the dining in restaurants, and I think that's bullshit. And I'm like, well, that might suck for you, but think about all the workers. And then his immediate response was, well, they actually would prefer to work so that they don't starve to death and so they can pay their bills. And I said, well, actually, I hope you know they don't prefer to work during a pandemic. Yeah. That they are being forced to. Of course they want to pay their bills and they want to eat. But that does not at all mean that they want to work through a fucking pandemic.
Right. Once again, they walked a couple steps out into the plank of truth and stopped.
Yep.
And pitched their tents. And you're up there a little further like, hey, did you guys hear about Canada or New Zealand or any of these other countries and how they are not going through what we're going through? What? Other countries exist? All I know is I can't go to Golden Corral. And it's like, fuck that. Hey, you know what we should do? You made me think of this. I don't know if we'll be able to do it this Thanksgiving, only because I know you were saying you're going through some changes with your internets. But at least for Christmas, we should do one where we kind of set up a feast and maybe do like a Christmas stream where we can have people have like dinner with us while we talk about it doesn't have to be politics, but we can do like a joke one where we can dress up as uncles and really stupid people, and we'll be like, and now we're going to see what your Uncle Tony has to say. Anyways, just our friends getting together. You made me feel a feeling in my heart about, God, you're right. I don't really miss my, I like some of my immediate family, but people outside of that range, I've stopped really being around since my grandfather died like 20 years ago. So yeah, I don't really do that, but I do love my brother and my mom. I don't know how long she's going to be around. So I do miss that. My mom's in some form of denial. I don't think she's really aware, like, that Christmas probably ain't going to happen either. Right. But anyways, my point is maybe we can do that, like a little stay at home with Rad Left kind of deal on Christmas Day or something.
Yeah. We all need some kind of way to cope with this.
Little stream,
kind of family connection.
Some for fun.
Extended radical left family.
Maybe just see what happens. I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah. We could do like a Christmas, not Christmas Eve, but the Christmas Day Eve, stream where we eat leftovers and get drunk and imitate really offensive family members.
Yeah, we should do that.
Just like roast the shittiest parts of your family.
That would be fun. And please, if you don't mind, if you ever get on one of these phone calls again with one of your uncles, would you record it and play it back for us, please?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you had to go through that though. That's
honestly, I ended up having like an hour and a half long conversation with him, and we kind of just went down the bullet points of shit. Okay, we just went down the bullet points of just like standard conservative I watch TV news opinions. It was kind of funny because it started off when we were talking about COVID, and I was like, yeah, what needs to happen is it needs to shut down and everybody needs to be paid to stay home. And he was uncomfortable with that because, he doesn't like big government. And it's like, okay, but what is a government supposed to do if not help its people through a pandemic? Like
Yeah.
that's come on, that's got to be one of the most basic understandings of a government out there. Like
Yeah.
war and pandemics, right? I mean, what
Yeah.
else? What else we got?
They were really caught with their pants down. I think every government generationally tries to get away with as much as they can get away with without having to actually help anybody. And
Yeah.
then when something comes along like this, all eyes are suddenly on them because most of the time, we can ignore them. I mean, my God, I don't even think politics was discussed much at dinners up until.
No, it was taboo.
It was. And now, I'd say since 9/11, like I always say, your generation and my wife's generation, you're the first generation that were born into a political thinking, like you guys think politically, and you guys are way ahead of the rest of us. And
then there's the Zoomers who didn't even know pre 9/11 life. That's just been their entire existence.
Yeah.
How fucked up is that?
It is crazy. It is very crazy, and it's very interesting to me. And you guys are way smarter because it's for survival. You have to be. You have to watch these bastards. Because they're fucking you at every turn. So
right.
You've created a dimension in your brain that I have now developed one, but it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. I just didn't. I had no reason to give a fuck. I was, I did what I did. I just enjoyed life, which I gotta admit, I do miss that naivete. But I was fucking dumb though too, like there's a lot of things I took for granted and I just didn't I probably didn't have super compelling conversations. And if I feel like now I can carry on a little more of a conversation. So it's good to learn shit is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And yes, and that is part of the crux of the problem with a lot of these family members that they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear facts. They don't want to hear figures. They don't want to hear these very compelling arguments against capitalism. They just don't want to hear it.
No.
So then the next thing that came out of my uncle's mouth after this, so now we're talking about, government's too big. Like, okay. And I said, well, isn't that something the government should be able to handle? And every other country has handled it except for us.
Yeah.
And then, he kind of scoffed about that. And then, of course, this is the next thing that comes in. He says, well, I just don't believe the mainstream media. Okay. And I'm like, yes, good, great. I'm glad you're saying that. You absolutely should not believe the mainstream media because I imagine we're talking about Fox News right now. I imagine we're talking about CNN. And yes, let's go ahead and not believe those guys because those guys fucking suck.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay. And then he's just not sure about those numbers. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, you can have some skepticism there. I mean, I'm sure not every one of those numbers is legit. I mean, you know how numbers are. I don't know if you've ever gone to a hospital before, which he has. He has extensive medical problems. So I'm like, have you ever seen hospital bureaucracy? It's got to be a nightmare. And trying to get these numbers together and dealing with politicians and stuff. Yeah, it's got to be a mess. Obviously, there's been mishandling of this from the county level all the way up.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, okay, don't trust it, but also know that 260,000 people have died.
Yeah.
And then the next stage of denial. Well, me and any of the people that I know, we don't know anybody who's gotten it, and we don't know anybody who's died from it. And I'm like, that's good. One, Colorado is doing way better than Ohio is.
Yeah.
Which Ohio is doing way better than New York is, or LA, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's not just you and the people you know, dude.
Yeah.
The world exists outside of you. What an American fucking thing to say. Well, I don't know anybody who's been affected by it. And it's like, dude, you live in Larimer County, Colorado, like where the population is like 300,000 or something. You know, it's like.
Also,
it's all spread out and shit. You're in the mountains. Everything's outdoors. Like,
is he on Facebook?
No.
Oh, well, there. That's half of it. All the people I'm seeing are people on Facebook that are, I used
Yeah,
to go to high school with, or people that live in New York. I mean, there are plenty of people fucking dying from this
yeah,
shit and getting
yeah.
it.
And
All you
I
gotta
told
do
him
is,
that. I'm
yeah,
like, I know people who've gotten it.
hmm
I know people who have died.
yeah, me too.
And I mean, that's not good enough, though. It's not good enough for
Yeah.
these
Well,
boomer.
I think it's similar to the election fraud thing. Every election has fraud, I'm sure. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
what
every
amount.
election is a fraud.
Exactly. And so, but the numbers of people that are being fudged aren't even close to going to change anything. I mean, Biden fucking won
Right,
by quite a
right.
lot.
Yes,
And same with this. This shit's
yes,
fucking wiping out the fucking country and
yeah,
going way worse than anyone ever imagined. And yes, some numbers might be more or less than we're counting, but that's all fucking apples and oranges to the fucking reality of like whatever. It's basically whatever it is that can keep their minds off of it, which I get it, man. It's not fun to think about. I try not to think about it. I found
yeah.
myself watching the news more again and watching these. Last night I watched the news before Jimmy Kimmel because Jimmy Kimmel makes me feel good because he makes fun of Trump and I think he's funny. But just watching that little half-hour news beforehand put me in a sour ass mood, man.
Yeah.
I drank myself out of it, but fuck, man, it's just watching the like fucking the beds like this small county calling saying usually we can send people over to this bigger city, but they don't have beds either. And I was just like, oh god, like at what
Yeah.
point? So I guess that naturally brings us to the vaccine. Like, how are you feeling about the vaccine? And any of that stuff. Should we discuss any of that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, earlier on in this whole thing, I had said, I think even on an episode, I had said that I would be down to take the vaccine, but I just, oh man, I don't know. I'm starting to feel weird about it. Just like,
I
and I
know.
don't want to spark any like anti-vaxxing, misinformation or what sentiments out there. That's not. I just when they're like saying they're rushing it through the FDA to get approval and stuff, that shit kind of irks me. Like it's just we're so fucking impatient
I know.
and just absolute refusal to pass any kind of COVID relief.
I know.
You
What the
know,
fuck, man? Like, yeah, that'll be the first thing I think that really tells what Biden is going to be is if they pass and we already know they're probably not going to pass much of shit. Like,
yeah.
and they're going to blame it on the Republicans. It'll be that continue that cat and mouse game of like, well, it's
Oh
their
yeah.
fault. Well, it's their fault. It'll just be I believe that's my prediction. I hope I'm wrong, but I believe it'll be
Yeah.
the Biden version of that.
Today it was AOC and Ted Cruz going back and forth blaming each other's parties.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is just them bickering with each other.
yeah. I saw that.
Yeah.
AOC's, yeah, she's complaining about them going on holiday break, which is a valid complaint.
Yeah.
Man, the real thing with all this stuff with your uncle and all of it, like, and also as far as the vaccines go, like, I saw the CDC is basically telling them, hey, the makers to warn people that it's not going to be. I think they use the term a walk in the park after you get the vaccine.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It had
it's gonna
something like
suck.
15 days quarantine after you take it. That
Mhm.
there's probably going to be some illness and, that it's not. I don't know. And then, like, because with flu vaccines, there are a percentage of people who get the flu from the vaccine.
Yeah,
I mean, right?
that
I'm not
doesn't.
making that up, right?
No, that's yeah. Like, man, with anything, like we were saying, like fish kills a lot of people. Aspirin kills a lot of people. It's like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that just there are going to be people that have bad, and I know that it's probably like you said a small percentage, but man, if it's you that happens to, that fucking sucks. Or if it's my kid,
Yeah.
that's not going to just be okay. It's not going to be like, oh well,
Yeah.
for the cause of the betterment of the good, or I don't know,
Yeah.
man. It's hard. I'm scared too, is what I'm saying. This all
Yeah.
sucks. This all sucks.
Yeah, and then my grandma and I kind of agreed on that point because she's definitely an anti-vaxxer, so that was interesting. I love my grandma, but man, she's got some. She says the right things. It's the weirdest fucking thing. She's like, "Yeah, this country is sick, and yeah, these big corporations they don't care about the little guy, and blah blah blah." Like she says the right things, then immediately goes, "Yeah, that's why I voted for Trump," and it's like, oh my
Like
god,
what?
how are you getting from there to there?
It reminds me, I used to work this job with my friend Joe where we were out canvassing. It was just one of my many stupid ass jobs I've had to keep this fucking lifeboat going. But I remember we'd go to weird little cities, and one day we got to talking to this guy who just walked up to us, and man, he was interesting. He was just, I remember he was talking about all this shit, and we were agreeing with him and being like, holy fuck, like, yeah, dude, like, fuck yeah, like looking at each other like this guy's fucking smart, and like really, I'm thinking like I found it, and then right at the end he goes, and it's the Jews, and right all of his credibility
Oh
down. I was like,
God.
God damn it, dude, you had to, come on, you were so close, you had us.
That's
And
how
then,
you ruin every
yep,
conversation. You can have the best opinion in the world and just end, and it's because of the Jews.
yep, or the
That's gonna
gays,
that's
or
gonna ruin it every time.
it sure does.
Yeah, the gay agenda. The second you say gay agenda, unless
Hey,
you're
do you?
talking about like a really flamboyant planner.
Yeah.
And then one of the last things that we talked about, my uncle and I, we talked about Black Lives Matter. This was kind of funny how this came, because I saw it coming from a mile away. He was like, and I just don't know. There's just so much unrest in this country, and I was like, yeah, there really is. And he's like, yeah, you got to watch out for those stupid protests. And I was like, yeah, I was like, the pro-Trump, anti-mask protests, those are dumb as hell. And he's like, yeah, well, and then also like the Black Lives Matter, and I was like, oh no, those are great. I was like, those are great. I personally think Black Lives Matter, and he's like, oh no, you think that, but like that's not really what it's about. You got to really like look into it, and you'll find that you wouldn't want to know the people who started that. And I was like, I really think I do want to know the people who started that. And he was like, no, Antifa started Black Lives Matter. And I was like, well, that's untrue. And he's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, yeah, it's very much untrue. What the fuck?
Yeah, where did he get his information?
Yeah, exactly. The mainstream media.
I'm surprised.
Who he just a couple conversations ago, or like, a couple topics ago, or one topic ago, we were talking about COVID. He said he doesn't trust the mainstream media, but he was insisting to me. He was telling me how violent these protests were because he was watching them on the news. And I said, dude, I was there.
Yeah.
I got maced.
Yeah, the only violence
I got shot at.
Exactly. Not by protesters.
No. I was like, dude, you were sitting on ass watching the news and going, oh man, they broke windows. And of course he brought up broken windows.
Yeah, it's broken windows. And which once again were honestly perpetrated a lot by people trying to, there's a lot of weird videos of police breaking windows.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm sure he brought up George Soros, didn't he?
No, he didn't, but I did.
Okay.
I was like, oh, we're all funded by George Soros. Because I was like, I am Black Lives Matter. Everybody I know, all of my friends, we're all Black Lives Matter.
And all Americans,
we're all Antifa.
Yeah, we should all be anti-fascist. That's kind of a pretty American thing. If you understood what Antifa stands for, you fucking idiots.
Yeah, but they go, that's not what it really means. And you're like, okay, but then by that logic, then you have to concede that the Nazis weren't socialists.
Yeah.
It doesn't work both ways.
Yeah, you can't just say one thing doesn't mean what it says. And it's, I know, man, this is the first time we've always lived in separate realities, I believe. I mean, there's a really nice thing, oh God, I'm forgetting his name, but, oh God, he's this guru guy, but he talks about the different perspectives animals have, like, like a chameleon, man. Like a chameleon sees the world completely different than humans do. Like it literally sees things different. Like chemical, like there's animals that see things in infrared, like the electromagnetic spectrum. We all see things very differently. And then you break that down human wise. I find it really fascinating. Like when I was younger, we were all kind of brainwashed by like ABC News, or they had 3 news channels. That was really it. And then you started getting, the one thing Fox News did was make me realize, wow, they can take people on a completely different path.
Yeah, with the same information.
Yeah. Like you could, like those people are living in a different reality. I bet their brain sees things different than mine. Like when they see a president, or I don't know what they see, but I know it's different than what we see. Right. And it's very fascinating that we live in a world now where, all these split factions of mindset are allowed to coexist. And I guess that's always been that way, in a way. There's always been people down the street that probably think very different than you. But I just always assumed, like when we were watching Indiana Jones, we were all rooting for Indiana Jones, not the Nazis. That's just how I felt. I always
Yeah.
assumed we wanted Indiana Jones to win, but I guess there are people out there that are like, oh man, the Nazis got their faces melted off.
Have you watched The Social Dilemma yet?
I have not, but I've heard a lot about it.
Okay, you should check it out, man, because I think it explains a lot of this. And this was another thing that I talked about with like my grandma last night. So basically, the documentary kind of goes over how we're all like being put into our own echo chambers. That confirmation bias, has a lot to do with this. We seek out the information that backs up our own personal feelings about things,
Yeah.
whether or not they're based in reality. Or, like some of it can be based in reality, and then other things are, like how we're talking about, you can see like there's this awesome app that my buddy Reed showed me. It's called Ground, where you can look at a news item, and you can look at it from the different perspectives across the political spectrum. So you can see the same exact news item and how it is spun based on just the headline, just how different it is, how the verbiage, how it's worded, and what the focus is. So it'd be like, for example, I'm just gonna make this up off the top of my head, but like Kyle Rittenhouse, man who, how would the right spin that? Man who defended himself at protest, makes bail.
Yeah.
Versus, a more like left. There's not a lot of actual left-leaning news outlets out there, of course, but
Right.
they'd be more like man who murdered, who was convicted of murder, or who is on trial for murder, is bonded out by radical evangelicals or whatever. That's how I would write the headline, but you know what I mean? And it's like those subtle differences. They're both based in reality. They both have roots in reality, but the way that they're spun is so drastically different. And it's made even worse, not just by news outlets, because I would say most people think that news outlets are a lot more moderate than what we think the populace is right now, the division amongst the people.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with social media, because social media, like the way that it works is it tracks to see exactly what you're like when you're scrolling. It tracks to see the exact kind of content that you stop and read, and the things that get you going, the things that get you into the comment section, the things that get you commenting on it, And so, like for me, Facebook has to have me down to a T, where it's I jump in anytime I see some dumb fucking neolib, spouting some nonsense about how taking a risk, in business is the end all be all, and you deserve to reap all of the rewards of the labor of all of the people that you're taking advantage of to make your quote unquote innovation come to reality. That's going to get me hook, line, and sinker every time. So that's why my Facebook feed is filled with that shit.
Yeah.
And so I am getting this perception that most of the country are a bunch of fucking neolibs, and it's filled with those fuckers, and then very few people who jump in and attack them. So I'm seeing things from, harsh neoliberalism and like very active, very intellectual socialists, and that's how I'm viewing the world, because of how inundated with this I am, because of how well the algorithm has me down. And then on the other side of the spectrum, these conspiracy theory nuts, or the people who think that broken windows, is way more serious of a thing. It takes a top priority over dead black people. All of these things that just like keep perpetuating these small ideas that we had that are now blown into much bigger things, because we think that that is the entire world, because of our entire world is now on our phones.
Yeah, I have really enjoyed being off Facebook more. I maybe post once a week now. I mean, we had an anniversary I posted about, but being
You're so
off
cute. You guys are so precious. My God. Congratulations on airs to you guys.
Thanks. It gets old doing the cute couple bullshit, so we had to start making fun
my
of it.
partner and I, but we've been together for 12 years, so we get it. We get it.
Do you guys ever post about you guys never? I never see you post.
We do every year. I don't know if we did this year because it was like, bah, but
It's
Yeah.
very much, it's very, to me, it's always like the couples that post the most about themselves usually aren't doing real well.
Yeah, they're the miserable ones, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
The ones that
So,
taking pictures all the time. They're
yeah,
like the needy kind of
yeah,
like pay attention to how good we are because I'm
yeah,
not convinced how good we are.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like this will
Not
give me,
not necessarily that that's true, but
right. And I think some of it's very true. And
yeah.
it also gives you a little jolt, that little jolt that lasts for about, what, 5 minutes of like, ooh, I
Yeah.
got some attention. But this all plays
Yeah.
out. There's a movie called Century of the Self, which is all about Edward Bernays, who was Freud's nephew. And
Uh-huh.
he figured out marketing a long time ago, back when he realized, I'm sure you've heard of some of this. He figured out, like housewives are at home around 3 p.m. So let's
Yes.
market towards them,
Yes.
dishwashing. And then he also figured out, like, he put everyone in a category. And I think this Facebook stuff's just an extension of that, really.
Absolutely it is. Yeah.
Because even like some, like, let's say the movie Donnie Darko, for instance,
Uh-huh.
a weird film that I think is maybe kind of aimed towards millennials or people that think, otherworldly or whatever.
Yeah.
But even
Feel kind of isolated and
yeah,
alone. Yeah.
yeah, which I love that movie. But like,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, it's great. But like, they even put them in a category of like this kind of like, so it's good that you're aware you're in a category, because it helps to show, no one should feel they're not categorized. Every one of us has been categorized, and we categorize ourselves.
Mm.
And that's why a lot of the stuff I read, one of the big tropes that spins out a lot is they say, stop believing the story you tell yourself about yourself. One way to free yourself is, every day people wake up telling themselves, I have to be this way, I have to act this way. But the only person telling you that is you, and maybe the
Yeah.
cultural pressures around you that we also implement on ourselves. So you can
Right.
free yourself from any of that. But I'm just saying, yeah, a lot of that it's all preconditioned fucking social
Yes.
engineering bullshit. And yeah,
Yes.
man, it's there. It's all there for sure. Yep.
Yep. And to rope that back into the Thanksgiving thing,
Yeah.
y'all don't have to be silent when your family is being racist pieces of shit.
No.
Now, like a lot of this is systemic. They grew up, they're the children of the greatest generation, or they are the greatest generation. I think I've talked about it on here before, but how propaganda was probably necessary and probably was a good thing back in, World War II to
Yeah.
get people to be anti-fascists.
Yep.
It was good. Very heavy anti-fascist, anti-Nazi propaganda. Good stuff, because
Yeah.
that's important. We need to be anti-Nazi. Now it has been taken to the next level, and now everybody's anti-something, anti-each other. And that's going to come out because you have your preconceived notions, I know I do, about conservatives. I think they're a death cult. And I told my uncle that. I said, I think the conservatives are a death cult. And he said, oh, that's interesting because you're talking to one. And I was like, uh-huh.
Yeah. Well,
Guy who wants to deny 260,000 deaths, who said to me that you think all lives matter when I said Black Lives Matter.
yeah.
And I said, and not only this, but he's had a lifelong disability and has dealt with that his entire life. It impairs like his ability to work, so he doesn't have regular employment and hasn't my entire life. He literally lives off of disability and Medicaid and food stamps and stuff. And I'm saying that like, cause out of like respect, cause some people feel ashamed about that stuff. You shouldn't, you absolutely should not. But I find it very ironic that you are a conservative, somebody who wants to cut those programs.
Yes.
Those very programs that you're living on.
Yeah.
And just like my grandma is living off of Social Security, it's like, where do you guys think that this stuff came from?
Exactly. It's once again, I hate to keep saying it, but the plank of truth, man. They don't walk out very far, and they walk out as far as it gives them a right to feel anger towards certain groups, which is really the basis. And the Conservative Party knows this. They know the fucking talking points that are going to rile these people up. It's simple. You got to be you got to be anti-abortion. You got to be pro-Bible. You got to be anti-immigration. You got to fucking throw the word God in there every once in a while. Throw the word America. Show the flag. Be pro-military. I mean, they show it in the show The Boys. It's so obvious the way they use the propaganda. That's why I love that show. It fucking shows exactly. God damn it. It's a very sports mentality, man. They know what you're thinking. I mean, and they're playing you like fucking fools. Like, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts watching that. I'm very lucky. on my side of the family, I don't have really any conservatives that I deal with. There's
Yeah.
probably a couple aunts and uncles that I don't really, like I said, since my grandfather died, we don't all get together at grandma's. So we go to my mom's, and it's my brother and his family. And I mean, there's probably a very small percentage of me, a small chance of me dealing with anyone with a conservative mindset. Now,
Yeah.
on my wife's side of the family, it's a little different. But the people that are more conservative leaning are not very vocal about it. So I'm very
Yeah.
lucky. I just, we just kind of avoid the topic, and I'm fine with it. You know.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I'm the only leftist in
Yeah.
my
Oh,
family.
You're
Everybody else is conservatives. My sisters are, I would say, they're definitely more attuned to the liberal ideologies, but they're very, very religious. So it's kind of hard to pin that down.
Yeah.
But as far as religious people go, I think they have good. They voted for Bernie and stuff. So
There you go.
at least they better have. They told me they were going to.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, there you go.
But there was a lot going on during the primaries with my niece and stuff. But
Right.
so I guess how do you find that it works to talk to people that you care about and that you respect on some level? How do you try to get through to them? Because my conversation with my uncle, I thought it went really well. Like, we kind of went down the talking points of the mainstream media. Like, I literally told him, I was like, it just sounds like you have a checklist of things that you're. Like, you're literally going down the typical conservative talking points as if it was a checklist.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and countering them with the typical checklist of well, you don't go into a cancer ward and yell all diseases matter. I use that. I'm going down the checklist,
Right.
countering their checklist. And I'm like, I don't really like this. This seems performative to me. But I did it. I was respectful. I'm not as he's family. I'm not going to be as hostile as I am with people online.
Right.
And I'm also not going to admit exactly how extreme I am. If I had said, I think the only thing that's going to solve this is a bullet in every police officer's head, that's really going to alienate some people real quick. So
Right.
I guess what are some techniques that you've found that kind of works for you when you're talking with somebody that you care about these things who you are just diametrically opposed ideologically?
I usually, my common ground is I usually kind of jump in on our mutual hatred of Hillary Clinton. That's
yes.
That's an easy
We
one.
definitely united on the hatred
Yeah.
for Biden. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was good.
if you can go in on Hillary or something,
Yeah.
Biden hasn't pissed off enough people yet, and Biden still echoes a lot of the Obama, and people love Obama, and God damn it, I saw some interviews of him the other day, and motherfucker's charming. He is a charming son of a bitch. Doesn't change a lot of the, if you look into what he did, which liberals once again won't walk that far out in the plank to look at that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he never did anything good, though, and I'm not saying I wouldn't rather look at him every day than Trump. I still feel more pride for a country that has an intelligent black man
Yes.
leading it, that isn't going to alienate our fucking foreign relations and is going to not be an embarrassment on social media constantly. I still look to that as something I can wake up with less stress in my body towards, but it doesn't change the fact.
I don't know. Biden Biden tweeted out today, "America's back."
That doesn't sound great. You know what? Presidents just should not tweet. No
Yeah, how
Twitter
about that?
tweeting.
How about that?
But yeah, that's kind of it. I have found myself, I'll find that at work sometimes. I get into a couple conversations with people that I'm halfway through the conversation till I realize, oh, I'm talking to a Trump supporter, because they're very cagey about it. Most people don't, unless they're wearing the red hat, which, goddamn, they've ruined those colors for me. Anytime I see anything red and blue, red and white now, I instantly think Trump. Which I guess that was similar to, well, no, were the Nazi flags red and white, or am I thinking of the German?
Yeah, red, white, and black. Like
Red,
the
white, and
swastika's
black. Yeah,
black
yeah.
in a yellow circle on
God
a red
damn.
flag. Yeah.
How much more obvious can you be with the colors, guys?
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know, man. I finding common ground as much as you can, even if you can try to not devolve into name calling, even
Right.
if they do it first. Sometimes people, that's kind of part of the stuff too. I like to talk about is, I call it psychic immunity, or psychic immunity, where you're basically blocking a lot of the negative that comes in and don't let it get into the heart area, because that really does cause a lot of destruction.
Yes.
And it feels good when you can, like, someone can come at you a little strong. It happens to me occasionally. I'm not around people as much, but my wife
Yeah.
and I can have a day where we wake up and one of us is a little more edgy than the other, and
Yeah.
I come at her wrong about something, or Winston's annoying the shit out of me with something, and I got to learn to just kind of fucking center it in and like
Yeah.
not get all fucking frazzled. And it takes so
Yeah.
much. It takes time, man. That's the thing
Yeah.
with all this stuff. It's not something that just overnight. Like I feel anxious right now. I don't know why, but I feel
Yeah.
anxious right now, and it's something I got to work on. It's like I don't
Yeah.
know. It sucks.
It's not something that you can like fix either. It's kind of
Not
just something that
really.
you've got to like kind of cope with, and something that you've got to like learn, like tricks
Yeah, you can
on how
maintain it.
on how to maintain. Yeah.
Yeah, just
And
not let.
that's probably how it is, like having a conversation with somebody like that too. I will admit I am terrible at it. I let when somebody comes at me all snarky and shitty with a terrible fucking attitude, and it's like, oh, you're just a dumb liberal, like of course you think that you went to college, blah blah blah, that kind of shit.
Yeah,
I don't care who they are. Like, this is why my dad and I don't talk. I don't care who you are. I will come at you as hard or harder than you came at me.
yeah.
I have this just like immediate like revenge attitude.
I
And
yeah.
I know that's not the way to get through to somebody. I know the way to get through to somebody is like showing that you're more civil, listen to what they have to say, and don't think of it as like an argument or a debate. You got to think of it as like a conversation where you're like really trying to understand where they're coming from and why they think that the way that they do, and not try to like correct them. And I'm awful at that because
Well,
it's like a pet peeve of mine when somebody says something that is just patently false. It just sets me off. There's
see,
something in me.
I think there's also where is it that people are talking about in some country where basically America is known for having this almost sick obsession with being polite. Like people
Yeah.
are like, and it's caused this weird, almost like we're not being very authentic. And there's some other
Yeah.
country, someone was saying they went to, like some comedian I was listening to, where they said they went to this country where people will they just tell you the truth right away. They'll be like, "Hey, mate," like, and they this kind of fucking, and it's like he said it's so refreshing. And like, I don't think your tactic or the way you're doing it is wrong in any way. And I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you, most of the time that's my reaction too, especially like because your first instinct when someone comes at you like that, like especially if it's like a Karen or someone out there just in the wild wilderness of
Yeah.
humanity,
Just shut it down.
oh yeah, I want to tell, like, first off, it's like, who the fuck do you think you are talking to
Yeah.
me like that, you piece of shit? Like, do you not see like how
Yeah.
weak you are? And like, I want to destroy them. If I'm not in the right mood or if I'm a little jazzed up, man, I will rip them apart as well. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I do like, I started living my life doing like I spent the first couple years on Facebook just being a fucking. I just got I would hair trigger with debates, man. I was attacking. I'd look for debate, man. It felt good to get that energy out. And
Yeah.
then now I'm trying to roll it back. So you're not talking to someone here who's reached any kind of Zen. I'm just more saying this to try and keep myself remembering
Yeah.
like that there is a
Right.
way out of it. Because when I hear the stuff going on with COVID, my initial reaction is to start kind of winding up and getting panicky. And then
Right.
I guess I'm talking about this book and shit, not so much to try and teach you as much as I'm trying to kind of remind
Yeah.
myself, like, okay, remember, Casey, there is a way out. Because feeling hopeless, I know this stuff works when you can do it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice just to tell someone to go fuck themselves, man. Sometimes I think there's something to be said
Yeah.
for that as well. I can't. Some people
Yeah.
deserve just to be told to go fuck themselves or to be
Absolutely.
guillotined. Guillotine them
Yeah.
as well.
Yep. And I guess to wrap it up, I think we should probably end about here. But yeah, I mean, I will say that I am proud of myself. After having said that my weakness is jumping to like hostility, and I kept my cool last night, man. I just went down the bullet points of. I was like, okay, here we go. We're gonna do this. And we ended up, like I said, we ended up talking for an hour and a half, which for me is freakishly long on a phone. I hate being.
That's
on the phone.
good. Yeah.
But yeah, just talking about. Just stuff that he's probably never been exposed to, because like I said, he's not on Facebook. So he doesn't get the checklist of like liberal counters to the standard TV conservative talking points.
Right.
And I don't know. I think maybe I got through to him. Because I was like, at one point, I was like, what if somebody came up to you and said, all disabilities matter? while you're, struggling with your, something with your disability. Like, how would that make you feel? I was like, because a lot of this is like they don't, and I think it's like human. I think it's you don't really understand something until you kind of have gone through it yourself, at least
Exactly. No,
peripherally, or
that's very, very true. There are people that drive a certain way that have been in car accidents that people that haven't don't.
yes,
Things like that. It's very true. And I
or
agree with
people
you.
who don't drive like me because they've never delivered pizzas before.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, man. It's all about what your experience
Get the
has been.
fuck out of my way.
Yeah, like go. No, but I think it's good you laid down the groundwork. I bet you with someone that's pretty entrenched in that stuff, you got to remember they're hearing that stuff and watching that stuff 24 hours a day. So for your voice to start becoming a little voice on their shoulder, being like, there's another way to look at this. It might take a few more times, but eventually you're going to be a voice in his head where he's at least going to consider, let's hope, he at least starts to consider. It's such a long road back to fixing this, and that's one of the. It's not easy. Everything's been very fractured.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good we are not able to be around each other as people right now. Maybe that's part of why we haven't all shot each other, because we're maybe this disease has some sort of like side meaning, universal
kind of like esoteric fatalist
something, right? Like we're not like we've all been put into timeout. It's like, nope, go stand in the corner, humanity.